Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you on South Sudan. The Secretary General was just talking about accountability, and I wanted, given that the Associated Press is quoting witnesses inside the UN camp as saying that an SPLA government tank fired at the Chinese APC, killing 2 peacekeepers. What's the UN say about this is the government that it works with? Does it accept that evidence, and if so, what will it do about it?
You know, the targeting of specific targeting of UN peacekeepers is a very serious international crime. We're trying to get the details of exactly what happened to our Chinese colleagues, but we do understand that it was a direct confrontation from the military. I don't have all the details yet, and again, people will need to be held to account. There is an elected government in South Sudan. They need to honor their responsibilities first and foremost to the people who elected them, and to all the people of South Sudan. And they need to respect the status of forces agreement, the agreement signed with the UN, which includes freedom of movement for UN personnel and UN peacekeepers and UN planes, and that currently is not being respected.
Speaking of, I wanted to ask you, there's a particular case of a dozen internationals in something called the Tureen Apartments in Juba that say they have no protection at all and are surrounded by SPLA, and I wanted to know, is the UN in a position to provide help,
well, obviously, this is a very, very fluid situation. The UN is doing whatever it can with the means that we have on hand to protect its own staff, to ensure that everybody is safe and sound, and there are mechanisms in place, and I'm sure those are being followed, but I don't have those exact details.
One last one.
I'll come back to you. Yes. Matthew.
Sure. I wanted to ask you, I'd seen and published a memo by Mr. Peter Drennan of DSS, basically saying suspending any travel in or out of Juba by UN personnel. And I wanted to know, would that cover by land? Would this preclude peacekeepers coming from elsewhere in the country to Juba?
I don't know. I haven't seen this memo, which was obviously shared with you, but not with me, if it exists. The head of DSS takes the necessary precautions and sets out necessary orders for the safety of staff. That's his responsibility. Obviously, the airport remains closed on official orders of the government. We would like to see that airport reopen. At this point, we're unable to get staff that needs to come back in. We are unable to get people who need to be medevaced, included wounded peacekeepers and others who may need to be medevaced out. So the opening of the airport is a critical part of us trying to improve the situation. And also, the fact that the airport is closed limits our ability to bring in food and other critical supplies to the UN camp, including for the civilians, the thousands and thousands of civilians we are housing in various locations.
But I guess what I wanted to know is that a number of member states, they do disclose their warnings, travel restrictions. The U.S. announced last night that it was ordering non-essential personnel to leave. So I didn't see this
Last
as
I checked,
confidential.
we're not the 194th member state.
Right. But so why would you be less transparent than member states?
Well, it's if this memo exists, it's about ensuring that staff is informed, and staff are the ones who need to be informed.
And what about the Malakal report? I wanted to know, you'd said that it would be like at the end of May. We were given sort of an oral summary. Supposedly there were 2 reports. Are neither of the reports going to actually be made public?
They will be made public, and I will check to see what the status is. Thank you. I'll go get our guests, if you can just be patient for a minute.